I'm an English teacher, and people often ask, how do I grade essays? In particular, do I ever give an A+? And for a long time now, I've told my students that I will only give them 100% on an essay if I read it and I'm so moved that I cry. Now, this has only happened twice. And in one of the essays that a student wrote, it was a narrative essay, and it was about the student's grandparents. It was an essay on courage, and so it was focused on her grandmother. If I remember correctly, it took place in a house kind of like the house I'm in right now. She described these old bookshelves with various sort of brass and copper-colored knickknacks, a clock on the wall ticking, and some strange paintings and lamps and things like that from just an older generation. So in the essay, she described her grandmother's world and how her grandmother lived for years, for decades, married to the same man, madly in love with him, and he was madly in love with her. And then the reason why she chose to write about her grandmother for courage was because after many years of being happy and healthy together, the grandfather, her husband, began to suffer from dementia. And so in the essay, the granddaughter describes how her grandmother was always taking care of him, and throughout the months that passed, eventually, even though he loved to read these books, he couldn't understand the words. And in fact, not only could he not understand the words inside the books, he would look at this and he wouldn't know to call it a book. So he didn't know the names of curtains. He didn't know the names of clocks or lamps or knickknacks. All of those words escaped him. And the words of his grandchildren, the names of his grandchildren escaped him. The names of his only son and his only daughter escaped him. All the words left him when he was finally on his deathbed, except the name of his wife. And when I read that part of the essay, I burst into tears, and I gave it an A++. I gave it 100%. The other essay that I read that made me burst into tears simply had so many run-on sentences, I couldn't stand it, and I cried.